Hello guys, welcome back to another Python tutorial video. In today's video, we are going to be looking at the filter function in Python, how it works, and some examples relating to it. Hi, my name is Paul. Trainee44 is a brand, and welcome to my channel. I create content relating to Python programming, general growth as a software engineer, machine learning, and more. Consider subscribing in order not to miss out. Now let's get into the video. So the filter function is used to filter the given sequence with the help of a function that tests each element in the sequence to be true or not. This is the signature of the filter function. It takes in a function and an iterable. What it does is that it takes in a function that decides whether or not something should be filtered in or out of the iterable that you have passed through it. This function over here should be a function that takes in only one argument and returns a boolean value, true or false. Let's take an example so that it will all make sense. So, given a list of numbers, I want to filter out only the even numbers in that list of numbers. Here's what I'm going to do. We're going to define a function that takes in one number and identifies whether or not this number is even or odd. So here's that function. This function called isEven takes in a number which is an int and returns a boolean value. If the number modulo 2 is 0, then it means that the number is even, and if it's not 0, then the number is odd. I'm going to go ahead and pass this function to the filter function together with a list of numbers here. So what a filter function is going to do is that it's going to call this isEven function on each of the elements inside the numbers list here. If the isEven function returns a true value, it would return that as part of the filtered object. If it returns false, it will take it out of the numbers list. So let's run this and see. One thing that you should know is that the filter function returns a filter object, which is also an iterator of the result. So it doesn't actually return a list or an array or anything of the sort. It returns a filter object. For example, if I print this out, we get a filter object here. So what we do is that we're going to cast this filter object into a list before we print it out for us to know exactly what is in there. So I do that, you realize that it returns the values over here 2, 4, 6, and 8, which are the only even numbers inside the list of numbers that I provided the filter function. To provide a little bit of explanation, here's exactly what the filter function is actually doing. It actually applies the isEven function to each item in the numbers list and returns only the items for which the function returns true. So given a list of numbers, the filter function is going to run some sort of for loop. So for number in numbers, if the number is even, if it's even, then you basically append that number to this and then you print out results. It's something like this that the filter function is trying to simplify for us. So instead of having to do all this by ourselves, using for loops to do it ourselves, we go back and use the filter function, and the filter function will make sure that it filters anything that is in this iterable based on this filter function, the function that is provided. Let's take another example. Let's say we want to filter out only the words in this list of words that starts with the letter A. First, we are going to need a function that is able to identify whether or not a word in here starts with the letter A. That we are going to use a lambda function. If you don't know what a lambda function is, watch my previous video on map function, which I talked about what a lambda function is on. So the lambda function here takes in an argument called word, and what it does is that it returns word that starts with A. So it returns a boolean value, true or false. If it starts with A, it returns true. If it doesn't start with A, it returns false. So I'm going to pass this lambda function together with a list of words to this filter function. And this filter function is going to return a filter object for us. Since this filter function is going to return a filter object to us, we're going to cast this into a list and then print out that so that we see the result. So as you can see, within this list, it's only Apple that starts with the letter A. This is a test for you. What is the result of the following code? So there is a list of numbers, a test function over here, and a result that is gotten by filtering using the test function and a list of numbers. What do you think this is going to be? Pause the video, try it out, write the answer in the comment section, and continue watching. So when I run this code, I get an error. It says that the test function takes 0 positional argument, but 1 was given. So before, when I was explaining the signature of the filter function, I said that it takes in a function and an iterable. Now, one thing that you should note about this function is that this function that it takes in must take in an argument, not 0, not more than 1, exactly 1 argument, and it must return a boolean value. So in this case, the test function here does not take any argument, but returns true. Automatically, this would give an error because the filter function is going to try to pass each of the elements inside numbers to this particular test function, and in doing so, we are going to get this error saying that the test function takes 0 position arguments, but 1 is being given to it by the filter function. Now, before I conclude this video, I must talk about the filterfalse function, which is essentially the opposite of the filter function. It comes from the iterTools module in Python. Here's how to use it. First, we have to import this filterfalse function from the iterTools module in Python. Given a list of numbers, we would create a function that checks whether the number is even or not. It returns true if the number is even and returns false if the number is odd. Now, we want to use this filterfalse function to get the odd numbers out of this list of numbers. Pass in a function that checks whether it is even and the list of numbers itself. Now, what this filterfalse will do is that it checks if the number is even, then it filters it out. It removes that from the output. So whilst the filter function itself would have brought back the values that make this function over here return true, the filterfalse function will bring back values that make this function we pass here false. So in this case, the values that would be returned by the filterfalse function would be those that would give a false value from the isEven function over here. The filterfalse function also returns a filterfalse object. So in order to make sure that we get what we are looking for, in order to visualize what we have done, we must cast it into a list before we print it out. So we cast that into a list and then we print it out. So this returns the odd numbers from this list of numbers. And then we were using a function that checks whether the value is even or not. So it's basically like the opposite of the filter function. You might want to use it in situations where you are more interested in the other value, the false value of the filter function. So guys, that's it for this video. I thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy the video, you know what to do. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Make sure to turn on your notifications so that you don't miss out on any of these Python tutorial videos. That's it guys. Cheers.